Hello, welcome. This is Sam of Sam Bookery, and today in this video I wanted to share with you guys a project that I have been secretly working on in the background for the last couple of months. I've been putting together some junk journal supply kits with various materials based on specific color themes, because I know a lot of you guys are beginners and you might not have the vast supply of materials that some of us who've been doing it for a while have. And sometimes it's hard to get things that look good together when you're working on a junk journal. So I've put together these different box kits. They are available in my Etsy shop. I'll put a link in the description. But today I just want to show you like a slideshow of what is in the kits, talk about how I chose things and what's included in them. And there's like a video of me packing each of the boxes. So first, there are 16 different colorways I've put together. Included in the kit is a paper pack full of full-size sheets, smaller sheets, tiny ephemera, stickers, just things I've been collecting over the years, some vintage, some new, old dictionary pages. And then I've put together a lot of fabric pieces. I have been collecting fabric for decades. I've had businesses where I'm sewing all day, every day with different fabrics, and I've kept the scraps. So in this box, the special fabrics you can see on the top are vintage kimono fabrics from Japan. And so those are not new fabrics. They're cut from old vintage kimonos, small scraps, beautiful like silky fabrics. Every kit is something different because I wanted to match things to the colors of the kit. But each kit does include a piece of cotton batting that is 9 by 20 approximately, and 2 pieces of fabric that are 9 by 20. So that's enough for you to sandwich together and make a fabric cover for a junk journal. So I wanted to have pieces big enough so you can make your entire junk journal cover out of fabric if you want. You can also, if you don't sew, you can also, glue it down or whatever. Hopefully we'll have tutorials in the future on different ways to make covers for your junk journals. Besides those big pieces of fabric, there's also 4 long strips of fabric that are anywhere from like 2 to 5 inches wide and from like 12 inches to 54 inches long, just depending on what I had. And those long bits are good if you want to do like cut them into long strips to bind the edge of your fabric cover, or to cut them into strips to make long ties to tie up your journal. Or you can cut them down, into different pieces, add strips to the edge of your papers, anything like that. And then I've got 3 different sizes of squares. There's a large square that's like 7 to 8 inches square, a medium one that's like 5 inches, and then little tiny 2.5-inch squares. The smaller ones are great for applique, for using in clusters. The larger ones are great if you fold them in half with the folded edge to the top and add those into the inside of your journal cover as pockets. And then the 5-inch squares you can do pretty much anything with. And all of these, of course, you can cut down. They're also great for collaging onto the journal cover, kind of layering different fabrics together for a pieced collage look. And then I've added the specialty fabrics. This aqua and seafoam one, those are like home dec weight fabrics. They're really pretty and really sturdy. So those are fun to add in an extra texture and a different element in your clusters and whatnot. And then I've added 3 foot-long pieces of trim. It can range, like from there it was decorative tassel trim, there's velvet rickrack, there's lace, there's ribbon. Just depends what I had that matched that color theme. And then there's also a card that has yarn wrapped on it. And those are 5 different yarns in the colorway that are 36 inches long, so 1 yard long, so plenty long enough. And the yarn is great, 1 for closures, 2 for couching down. That's when you use like a zigzag stitch or a hand stitch and sew the yarn to your fabric, so it adds another layer of color and dimension to your fabric. It's also perfect for cutting and using as toppers for your tags in your journal. The fabric too is great to cut it down into like 1/4 or 1/2-inch strips or tear it down and use as journal card toppers or tag toppers for the ephemera in your journal. See, in this one I've got like 1 braided trim, a velvet rickrack, and then a velvet like 1/4-inch trim. And then I wanted to add some other embellishments for you guys. So we've got 3 mini envelopes in the kits. The envelopes I wanted to use because then you can reuse those in your journal too as different mini elements, like to tuck into pockets or to glue onto a page as a flip. But inside them, we have one with buttons. It's full of 5 different vintage buttons, some maybe more newer, but not super new. But I've been collecting buttons and getting vintage buttons from estate sales and flea markets for decades. And so I have a ton to pick from. So we pulled out different ones that would match the colorway. So that's in the first envelope. And the second mini envelope has various beads and also a metal charm, as well as a bulb safety pin full of tiny seed beads that all coordinate with the color theme of the box. And those are great if you want to add them on to the bottom of your signature strings as charms, stitch them on the cover in kind of a collage, add them to a cluster that you're putting on a page. And then the third envelope, you can see there the charms, there's like a giant key for that one. Each one has something different. Some large balls, there's a little cabochon, so all kinds of things. The third mini envelope, which is a super cute, like vintage envelope design. It's not a vintage, it's new. I bought packs and packs of them from Amazon. They're super cute. And in that one, we put handmade wax seals. Now they're not real wax, so they're not gonna melt in the mail. They're the, the plastic glue gun type wax. But we made all those wax seals, different impressions. There's letters, there's bees, there's geometric designs. It just depends, everyone's different. But they're in colors that go with the kit. And those are great. You can just use glue to glue those down in your journal or attach them to a cluster or a collage. They're great to use even double sticky tape and put them on the flap of an envelope, but just the flap so that it still opens and closes. And you can use like a Velcro dot or something if you want it to like stay closed but be reusable. Those are super fun. I love wax seals. They're so fun. So that's what's in the 3 mini envelopes. And then there's a giant paper pack, and I will kind of go through. I try to put something special in each paper pack. Some have papers that I've hand painted. Some have pages torn from manufacturers' fabric catalogs. They all should have like a Sears catalog page and a vintage dictionary page. And then sometimes, just depending what I had, I've got die cuts or stickers, old tags from clothing, all kinds of things. I just tried to make sure something special was in each one. We've got like quilt designs torn from old quilting arts magazines, all kinds of things. And so this one, there's the wax seals on that one. We've got a fleur-de-lis and a really fancy like circular design and an S. And then I've used paper clips kind of coordinating with the colors of the kit to hold the papers together in transit so they don't slide around. But those paper clips are great to use in your journal. You can add beads to them or tie a little strip of fabric just in a single knot to the paper clip and use that on the edge or the top of your journal. This kit here has got that polka dot is a knit fabric, and then the black is a velvet with a diamond print, and then the white is a corduroy fabric. So lots of fun different textures. There's some really pretty woven trim and tassel trim in this one. And then I used 3 different washi tapes to seal the envelopes closed. And washi tape is removable. All of these I think are the removable kind. So you can pull that off and then use it in your journal somewhere else too. Because I didn't want anything to be like throwaway. I didn't want to put anything in a plastic bag in this kit. I wanted everything to be able to be used for something else. So that's why I used paper clips to hook the papers together. And I used washi on beautiful envelopes that you may want to use in your journal anyway. So like really nothing goes to waste. It's all packaged nicely with gold tissue paper, which is great to collage and tear up and use as elements in your junk journal as well. This kit has got beautiful gold lame fabric. That is a vintage Japanese fabric. And the other one was a fabric that's gold and red woven together. So depending on how the light hits it, the color changes. Got some really shiny gold wired trim in that one, and then some braided trim with sequins. It was a lot of fun it was actually hard to decide what to put in the kit because there were so many options. So the first kits will be the exact things in the images. This is exactly what you're getting. But if a certain colorway sells, people request more, I can put another one together. It will not be the exact same things, but it will be very similar. Because I think it's more fun to have like a surprise too. Like, it's nice to know exactly what you're getting, but also I think it'd be fun to not know what you're getting in the kit and have like a surprise when you open the box. So these fabrics, most of them are like quilt shop quality, like high quality, 100% cotton fabrics, except for the 3 decorative ones. Those are all different fibers, just depending on what I have. There's like silky stuff. That's like some kind of netting or tulle, all different kinds of things. So what was the thing? So the cotton fabrics are really good quality. I've been collecting them for years. My mom had a quilt shop. I had a quilt shop. We've been in the sewing business for like decades. So we've been collecting these for a while. And now I have so many. It's fun to put them together in coordinating kits and see what actually goes together and looks nice together. Here we've got a lot of neutrals. So these are like tans and ivories. Yeah, just really pretty tone-on-tone prints. And if you guys have a request for a certain colorway, I tried to cover the gamut with these 16. But if you have a request for certain colors, I'm sure I could put one together for you. We have lots of materials to pick from. And in the future, if you guys like these, if they sell, and if not, I might just do it for fun. But I was thinking as I released my printable kits, making 1 or 2 of these boxes in colors and materials that would go with the digitals. So if you bought one of these boxes, you downloaded the digitals and printed them out, you could put a journal together with just that and be good to go. And then let me know if in the comments, if you do, what kind of tutorials you want to see with using these boxes. I know we're going to make up like a test journal with using only the things that came in the box. And I probably will do some simple tutorials. I know not everyone has a sewing machine or wants to sew, so I can do one with just like gluing over a chipboard with the fabric and then do one with sewing as well, just to cover the whole gamut. Here is coral and peach. And some of these there's other colors in the fabrics as well, but the predominant colors will be coral and peach. And I think all of them look nice together. There is some pretty eyelet trim in this one. It's really cute. And then these 2 are Japanese fabrics, and there's a really pretty lace fabric that I had. Years ago at Quilt Market, there was a vendor selling packs of like vintage Japanese prints and also current Japanese prints on their like fabric cards. When they come up with the new designs every year, they have like a waterfall card of large pieces of the fabric, and they were selling those from past collections. So I've got those in my collection. I have tons of like clothing fabric and home deck fabric in various, textures and colors that I've been hoarding. I am going to do a crazy quilt at some point, so I've been hoarding all these fabrics, but they're really great to use for junk journals because they're a little bit sturdier fabric. They add different layers of texture when you're doing it. That's like a silky fabric. There's another Japanese like vintage fabric. And then the 3 envelopes. And the washi tape I use, a lot of it has like gold foiling or it's different thicknesses. So it'll add a different visual element to your journal. The trim in that one, there's a really nice like suede, like 1/4 inch suede, it might even be an 1/8 inch suede trim with gold studs in it. It's a really cool piece of trim. And that trim would be great if you just did like hand stitches, called couching stitches, just across the trim. Every, 1/4, 1/2 inch just to hold it down to the fabric. That's a great way to add things like that maybe it's too small to stitch or too thick to stitch with the machine. You just stitch over it to hold it down. Here are the Dusty Rose and Mauve ones. We did a lot of fun fabrics in here. Roses, pinks, kind of more of a vintage vibe. And then we've got more of the Japanese fabrics in this one because I didn't have a lot of home deck and light pink. That is a rickrack that is velvet, and I think that's like a silk binding tape, and then a really pretty ruffled ivory trim with pink stitched edging. I'd love to see what you guys come up with this. If you have not joined my community on my website, sambookery.com, there's a free community there where we can ask questions and share photos of what we're working on. I'd love to see what you guys make with this, because everyone can start with the same supplies and come up with something totally different. So if you haven't joined it, it's free to join. It's in the menu of my website. And then, but these kits are on my Etsy shop. On my website, I only sell digital items. I don't have the ability to sell physical items on my website, but I've had an Etsy shop for decades, so you can find these over on my Etsy shop. And they're all just Sam Bookery at Etsy. So this is the Moody Blues. We've got fun like E-cut fabrics. There's a really shiny like lame fabric in here, super sparkly. Another vintage Japanese print, and then some really pretty blue trim. That thick rickrack is chenille, so it feels really soft. I don't know, I just have an obsession with rickrack, and when I find like old vintage rickrack or seam binding or whatever cards at estate sales or flea markets, I always buy it, or thrift stores, because you never know when you might need to use it. And it's hard to find that stuff now, especially with all the fabric stores closing down. So I hope you guys had fun just looking, even if you don't want to buy a kit or whatever, it's fun looking at all the cute textures and ideas, and it might spark some ideas for your next journal or give you some color ideas for something to work on. So I think this is the last one. This is Earth Tones and Rust, and we tried to stick with kind of browns and oranges and just earthy colors for this one. But I'll be back to designing the kits. I'm still working on Grand Tour, and the rest of those digitals will come out soon. But I did take a break to get all these photos and videos done for these kits to get them up. Because on this, you know, it's fun to have supplies. And I watch people do unboxings of these other fabric bundles and stuff online. I'm like, oh, that'd be so fun. So I wanted to put one together that like had all the tactile elements, but enough things where you could make a whole journal cover just from this one box. And then the gold tissue, there's 2 sheets, actually 3, because you don't see this, but I add another crumbled up layer of tissue on top of the box just to make sure nothing moves around in transit. So there's 3 sheets of the gold tissue paper in there as well that you can tear up and reuse in your journals. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys for stopping by.